man down. Video gamers have most likely heard these words multiple times while they're playing a video game. And friends of video gamers have most likely heard their friends talking about how many times they died in a video game. Playing violent video games can have a positive and negative effect on the gamer and on the gamer's family. Video games with violent descriptions and playing methods can cause behaviors of aggressions and bad social habits and lead to many health problems. While others disagree, there are many steps we can take to help prevent these consequences. One of these steps, or one of the bad things that can happen whenever you play a violent video game, is you can get aggression, you can have bad social habits, and you can also get health problems. Whenever you have aggression, you can have aggressive thoughts, aggressive feelings, and have aggressive behaviors. And some people, whenever you play a violent video game, you're rewarded for the violent behaviors you have by killing the person against you. Also, people become immune to violence whenever they play violent video games, which Dimitri Christakis says. Craig Anderson says, playing violent video games can increase aggressive behavior because video games are interactive, engrossing, and require the player to identify with the aggressor. Craig Anderson is reliable because he writes for the articles of New York Times, which have pretty factual information. There was a study that was taken with 227 college students. These college students were recorded to play violent video games, and they had violent behaviors, and they had poor academic grades. Another thing that happens by playing violent video games is bad social habits. Whenever you have bad social habits by playing violent video games, you can have short-term memory. It might help your short-term memory, but it can damage your long-term memory in the long run. You also have poor performance in school, which Anderson and Dill stated. Another thing that happens by playing violent video games is it leads to many health problems. One health problem is obesity. By sitting around and playing violent video games all day, you can start to gain weight. Another problem is video-induced seizures. You can have those by looking at the picture constantly and watching all of the motions move around the screen. Another thing that you receive whenever you play violent video games is you get postural, muscular, and skeletal disorders. These are all types of disorders that you get from sitting around and not moving your muscles and stuff in front much. Catherine Steiner-Adair says, kids, need time to daydream, deal with anxiety, process their thoughts, and share them with parents who can provide reassurance. Catherine is credible because she researches books and she writes what she has found into her own books. Although there is proof of why violent video games are harmful, many people disagree with other sides of the reactions. There are also arguments that people have because of video games. You're always going to have an opposing side. One argumenter, Dr. Ward, who writes for the New York Times, says, "We found that higher rates of violent video game sales related to a decrease in crimes, and especially violent crimes." There was a study that was taken in 1994 that said that youth offenders fell one-half from 1994 to 2010, and video game sales doubled since 1996. This was found in Shooting in the Dark. There's also another study that says 97% of United States teens play video games, and they argue with the fact that not all 97% of teens have violent behaviors. There's another thing that people disagree with violent video games causing behavior problems is you learn to follow instructions, you have quick thinking, and you have better memory from watching all of the video games and playing them. There's also another thing that people say that kids tend to leave the emotional effects behind of the video games, which was found on Raise Smart Kid. People may argue the effects of violent video games, but in the meantime, steps for prevention need to be acted upon quickly. There are many steps of prevention. One can be make games less violent. One can be which whenever you make games less violent, you have less violent urges. You also can put time limits on games. By putting a time limit on the game, the kids can just sit there for a little bit, and then your parents can tell them to go, or you can tell to go outside. Another thing is increase the violence ratings. If you have a violent video game that's PG-13 with lots of blood and gore, somebody can change it to a rated R, so you don't have to buy that, or you don't have to buy it, and somebody else who's over 18 can buy it. Another step for prevention is take a break and exercise. This can lead to less health problems. For 10 minutes a day, you can go outside and play a board game or stuff, or play outside. Another one is stop buying the violent video games. If you want to take an action to this, stop buying them. You also can encourage other activities. If you can refer to my handout. On this handout, you see that there are different ways to encourage activities. The first way is you can go outside and exercise. The second way is you can go and read a book. The third way is you can go play a board game with your friends or family. You may not put it away. This was all found on Becoming Minimalist. Playing violent video games can either help or deny a person's way of behaviors. Video games with violent descriptions and play methods can cause behaviors of aggression, bad social habits, and lead to many health problems, while others disagree. There are many ways to prevent harmful consequences. By playing a violent video game, people take the chance of changing their behavior to help them or not to help them. Thank you.
Round of applause. Okay, and let's go right into questions, please, if you don't mind. Whenever you're ready.
Why'd you pick this?
To be truthful, I searched it online, and then whenever I started reading about it, I realized that steps to this should be taken place because we do have a problem with obesity in America, and it'd be nice to help get around and help people to get rid of their aggressions by not playing video games more. Grace.
What are the chances of actually developing those problems, like getting a seizure from watching it, and obesity, and like the muscle problems that you're talking about? Like, did it say what the chances were? Like,
No.
percentages?
My information didn't exactly state what the chances were, but it says it was likely to happen if you play it for so often. Daniel?
Do you think if the ratings for certain video games were followed, like what age you were allowed to play them, it would help with these kinds of problems?
It might help because if you make the rating go higher, then you yourself wouldn't be able to buy the video game until you're older, and maybe by that time you're not so, and you may become a little away from playing video games, and either your parents would have to buy them, and they would have the jurisdiction to say no. Shannon?
What would you say to someone who argued that playing these video games would actually help people release their aggression instead of making them more aggressive?
That is a possibility when you play video games because, like I said, you can leave your emotional effects behind. But also, there are also chances where sometimes it might relieve your aggression, but you still have some aggression there that can go towards other things whenever you're not playing video games. Grant?
Like you said about like the emotional well-being for violent games, what do you feel like friendly games, like do you think that those emotions are just like you can still have an emotion for games that aren't violent?
Yeah. Whenever you play not so violent video games, it's not as bad, I would believe, because you have more things that go on that aren't so like bloody and gory and stuff like that. So it'd be okay. It's okay to play them, but it's still you can still take breaks from playing them, so you also don't get other problems from playing them. Caleb?
Have you ever played a violent video game?
I have.
What was it?
Call of Duty or something.
Okay, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very much.